Hello, I'm Dango Rose. Welcome to the Mountaineer Podcast, where everybody's listening. The Mountaineer brings you the latest news of the Peak to Peak region, in print, online, through our podcast, social media, and special publications. Now, listen in to the latest news of the area with our local journalists.
The song that you are currently listening to is called Lighthouse, and it is one of the latest singles from Laura Ruggles as part of her next upcoming album. You can stream many more of her singles and an album of hers under the name Laura Ruggles wherever you get your music, as well as other music that she has released under the stage name Hardt. That is Shark with 2 Ks at the end and Heart with 2 T's at the end. You can also check out Hardt and Laura Ruggles on Instagram and Laura Ruggles on Facebook and YouTube. And be sure to check out Hardt's website at sharkheart.com. And finally, she will be performing at the Jamestown Mercantile located at 108 Main Street in Jamestown on Sunday, October 6, 2024, starting at noon.
You and I ruled.
Hello there, everybody. My name is Jamie Lammers, and welcome to this week's Miscellaneous Monday edition of the Mountaineer Podcast, where I bring you various topics from across the Peak to Peak area. This week, I am bringing you the wrap-up of an advertising campaign that we have been promoting on the podcast for quite a few weeks, in fact, quite a few months now. You might recognize the Forward Together advertising campaign that we have been promoting on various Monday episodes of the Mountaineer Podcast, and we wanted to bring on one of the people behind that campaign on an actual interview for the podcast. So, for this week's episode, we are bringing that person on board. But before we have our guest this week introduce herself, I wanted to briefly mention a couple of announcements. First, once again, I wanted to bring up that you can check out the Art at the Center opening at the Nederland Community Center at 750 Colorado 72 in Nederland this Thursday, October 3rd. And you can learn more information about that event by checking out this past Wednesday's episode of the podcast with Mark McClish and curator Annie Thayer. I wanted to just make a quick clarification about something that was brought up in that episode, though. The musician was named by Annie as John Meets. That is not his name. His name is John Meertz. Either way, be sure to check out that opening as well as music by John Meertz at the Nederland Community Center this Thursday, October 3rd. Again, be sure to check out that full episode for full details. Second, speaking of music, I learned earlier today from Kip Nash, organizer of the Nederland Farmers Market, that there has been a last-minute cancellation for this Saturday's Harvest Fest Nederland Farmers Market. I forgot to mention that farmers market was the Harvest Fest in the previous episode of the podcast. But I wanted to bring that up now because Atomga will no longer be performing. Instead of Atomga, the Pamlico Sound will be performing at the Nederland Farmers Market this upcoming Saturday. For more details, be sure to check out the music mentions in the previous episode of the podcast, our Music of the Mountains episode with Kutan Dara, which, by the way, I think is a really great episode that you should check out in its entirety anyway, or read our last Music of the Mountains column for more details. And finally, speaking of the Nederland Community Center, it's time to announce this week's movie at the Backdoor Theater. This week's movie is Transformers 1. No, that is not the original 2007 Michael Bay-directed Transformers starring Shia LaBeouf. It is, in fact, a new release, Transformers 1, an animated prequel to the Transformers franchise, rated PG. Here is the logline from the Backdoor Theater. The untold origin story of Optimus Prime and Megatron, better known as sworn enemies, but who once were friends bonded like brothers who changed the fate of Cybertron forever. If you want to check out Transformers 1, the 2024 animated prequel at the Backdoor Theater this weekend, then be sure to head there this Friday, October 4th, starting at 7 p.m., this Saturday, October 5th, starting at 2 p.m., an open caption matinee, and again this Saturday, October 5th, starting at 7 p.m. for a great time at the movies. All right, preliminary announcements out of the way, let's get started with this week's episode. Our guest this week, do you mind introducing yourself real quick?
Oh, sure. My name is Alisa Witt, and I am the Director of Public Health for Gilpin County.
I want to apologize. There are some technical hiccups throughout the course of this particular interview. There is breathing in the background, and honestly, I wasn't even going to mention it were it not for the fact that, especially in the latter half of this interview, our guest keeps cutting out at certain points. It is not gratuitous enough that you can't understand what she is saying, but I just wanted to warn you guys about that ahead of time. And are you in the middle of the Forward Together campaign?
Well, I wouldn't say we're in the middle of it. I'd say the campaign has started, and it's just one tool that we're using for our youth: tobacco, vaping, mental wellness, other things that we're working on with youth in the county. And also, we're hoping to reach out and get some inroads for youth that go to school in Nederland. So it's all part of it's just one aspect of an initiative that we're working on, primarily focusing on substance use, mental health, tobacco, and vaping.
So what is the whole story behind the Forward Together campaign and its primary aims?
Well, the Forward Together campaign was developed by the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment about 3 years ago, and it's a social marketing campaign that targets both youth, specifically the teenage years, and their parents. And the goal of the campaign is to foster better relationships, both for youth with their own peers and especially for youth and their parents. It's designed to promote better communication and better connection, again, both between youth and other youth, but also specifically one of the target audiences is parents of teenagers and how to connect more with them and offer them support.
So is the main idea behind the Forward Together campaign allowing teens and parents to have better communication in order to combat particularly tobacco use and vaping?
Yeah, that's the main idea. It's a little bit broader than tobacco and vaping, although that is a huge issue in our community and throughout the United States. Youth have not taken up smoking like they did in my generation, but there's definitely still an epidemic of vaping, which, is highly addictive. But it also focuses on the use of other illicit drugs and also mental health concerns that youth have today. So it's multi-pronged, but yes, it is definitely part of our anti-tobacco, anti-vaping program at Gilpin County Public Health.
And how have you been getting the word out there about the Forward Together campaign? How has promotion occurred for the Forward Together campaign?
Well, obviously, we're having this podcast today. We're having this interview, so we're using media, both printed ads in the Mountaineer and the Weekly Register Call. And then this podcast is a great opportunity for parents or teens to learn about the program program, but we're also working directly within the school. So we recently met with the new principal at the Gilpin Middle School High School, and she's very supportive of the program. And one of my staff members, Marie Larson, is very young. She graduated from Gilpin High in 2016. So she's going to be leading the charge at the school, hopefully forming a group of youth, a peer-led program. It's not going to be us adults telling the kids what will help them. It's going to be getting their input and their involvement. And one of the cool things about that is we actually have some grant money from the tobacco settlement that's come down through the CDC and through the Colorado Department of Public Health. And so once we can recruit some youth to work with us on this program, we're actually going to be able to pay them for their time in the form of gift cards. So that's really cool. And we're hoping, we haven't met with Netherlands School yet, but we're hoping to be able to do the same thing in the Netherlands School. Mm-hmm.
So is combating tobacco use and vaping, as well as better communication between teens and adults, some of the primary areas that you're focusing on with this particular campaign?
Well, when you say primary areas, yeah, it's definitely one of our primary areas because we are funded by tobacco settlement. So the main area is vaping and tobacco. But really, the purpose of the Forward Together campaign is to foster connection. So it's a strengths-based campaign that helps young people build stronger relationships, feel more connected to their peers, because there's a lot of research that shows that one of the biggest problems for youth is not feeling connected, is not having the social support, both in the family and through their peers. And we know that those social connections build resilience, and youth that are connected are less likely to turn to drugs, alcohol, vaping, things like that.
Since this is hosted through Gilpin County Public Health, I assume that a lot of the programs are taking place in Gilpin County as well as in Nederland. So where are you focusing this campaign?
So it's really going to be a school-based campaign. Like I said, we are doing paid media, like we are doing this podcast today, and we're publishing ads, and there will be a lot more media in both the Weekly Register Call and the Mountaineer. There'll be posters throughout the community, but our primary method of working with youth would be through the school and through the youth program. So in Gilpin, there's the Eagle Youth Program through the Gilpin Community Center, and then in Nederland, of course, there's Teens Inc. We haven't worked much in the past in the Nederland School, so that's still something we need to develop, but we definitely are going to be working on that. And then from a prevention point of view, in addition to the Forward Together campaign, we also have in our grant money to do a program called Life Skills, which is targeted more younger students. So we have been doing this life skills program in the Gilpin School for the last 3 years with the 3rd and 5th grade classes. And that's really been successful because it teaches communication skills. It teaches how to deal with peer pressure. It's very interactive. It teaches kids refusal skills. So talking to 3rd graders and 5th graders, how they would approach, how they would communicate with their friends if their friend had an idea that wasn't necessarily healthy and they wanted their friend to participate in that idea. So peer pressure, things like that. So it's still early days with Nederland, but we are going to talk to the Nederland schools about also bringing life skills there since it's been very successful in Gilpin Elementary.
And how exactly did the Forward Together campaign start in the first place?
It started 3 years ago, like I said, through the state health department, and it's been very, very well received. They've done a lot of data analysis and surveys through parents, and what they found is that parents who saw the Forward Together campaign, and specifically there's interactive tools on that website that give them some scenarios, some questions to answer. There's even a fun game that parents can play with their kids or kids can play with their friends that builds skills. And the research that they did on this program showed that parents had a greater confidence that they would be able to talk to their children about health topics addressed in the ad, particularly in talking to their children about illicit drugs. And when we think of illicit drugs, we typically think of hard drugs or opioids or different drugs. Nicotine is a drug, and so when you're vaping, that's an illicit drug, especially if you're underage, and it's highly addictive. So we really need to work throughout the country and in Colorado, and of course at the local level that I'm responsible for, on just reducing the rate of kids vaping and trying vaping. And what we're finding is, unfortunately, it's happening earlier and earlier. There have been reports in schools of 5th graders starting experimenting with vaping, which to me is very, very sad.
Is there a particular time of year that this campaign primarily focuses its efforts?
Well, the reason that Gilpin County Public Health is just starting is that we were just awarded this grant. So the grant period began July 1st and coinciding with the school year. So the schools are where we're going to be meeting mostly, again, but after school youth programs as well. So it's just a new initiative for Gilpin County Public Health, and primarily through our grant funding. Public health is very grant funded, and when you have funds, you can do initiatives and programs, and sometimes if you don't have funding, you can't.
And is there anything that you hope people will take away from the efforts that you put into this campaign?
So I think that we want to give parents better confidence to be able to have conversations with their teenagers about these difficult topics. So that's why it's called Forward Together, and why one of the aspects of the program, if you go on the website, is called Connect More. So we're hoping to give resources, ideas, and support to parents and caregivers to have these conversations with their teenagers, and then also for teens themselves who may feel isolated or feel that they don't have enough connection. We're hoping to support them in those efforts. Again, because I said earlier, there's a tremendous amount of research that shows that youth who feel supported and who have social connections, both in the family and with their peers, are much less likely to participate in vaping and illicit drug use. Okay.
So who all is involved with putting the campaign together and getting the efforts out there? I assume you're a primary part of the campaign.
Right. So my background is in health promotion and health education. And so this is obviously one of those campaigns that's focusing on resources and tools and education. And then my staff member, Marie Larson, who's quite young, she just turned 26. She will be more of our forward-facing voice within the youth program. Again, we're hoping to put together either through an existing youth program that's already in and Gilpin, or developing one within the school. One of the other things that the new principal at Gilpin County Middle School, High School, Sarah Wright, asked us to do when we met with her about the campaign is she was hoping that we would have some more direct education for parents about the dangers and risks of vaping. I think, unfortunately, a lot of people don't understand how dangerous it actually is for youth, how addictive it is, and so she specifically thought that it would be for us to do some parent education campaigns about that. And that's not what this Forward Together campaign does. It doesn't do direct education, for example, about the dangers of vaping, but we will be doing that kind of education as part of the campaign, both with youth and with parents.
And is there anything additional about the campaign or about Gilpin County Public Health or anything else in general that you want to make sure people know?
Like to put out there to anybody who's listening is that we are seeking youth who want to get involved in this program. We do have money in our grant to be able to pay youth to participate. So it's cool, that they can do something that's great for the community, great for their friends, and also make a little money doing it. So if anybody's listening, any parents or any youth who think they might want to get involved in the campaign, they're welcome to reach out to me at Gilpin County Public Health. Our main number at our office is 303-583, and I never call myself, so I just forgot the rest of the number, but you can look it up easily on the web, Gilpin County Public Health. I think it's 5083. I apologize about that. But our office is Monday through Thursday, 7:30 to 5:30. We have our Gilpin County Public Health website. You can email me at awitt@gilpincounty.org. That's AWITT at gilpincounty.org. And it is 303-583-5803. My brain just connected to that. So, we're looking to get more youth involved. So that would be a good takeaway message as well.
I do apologize to Alisa for having to keep in that stumble at the end there. I was initially just going to edit the first mention of the phone number, but she remembered the number initially incorrectly. She swapped two of the numbers, and so I wanted to make sure that the actual number was clarified. Thank you so much to Alisa for coming on board and joining us for the podcast. If you want to learn more about the Forward Together campaign that is part of Gilpin County Public Health, then check out the campaign's official website at forwardtogetherco.com. Also be sure to check out more about Gilpin County Public Health by going online to gilpincounty.colorado.gov/departments-offices/public-health-agency. The office address is 15193 Highway 119 in Blackhawk. As Alisa already mentioned, the office hours are Monday through Thursday from 7:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. And to reach Alisa directly, be sure to email her at awitt@gilpincounty.org, or be sure to call her office at 303-582-5803. Thank you so much to everybody who decided to check out this week's Miscellaneous Monday episode of the Mountaineer Podcast. If you want to share this episode or others around with whoever you see fit, then be sure to head to the mtnearpodcast.buzzsprout.com or to the mtnear.com/the-mountain-ear-podcast to find an easily shareable link for the podcast episodes. And if you would like to be featured in the podcast in any way, shape, or form, you're a member of the Peak to Peak area and you want to promote something, you want to be interviewed, you want to contribute an actual segment, or you have advertising that you want us to share, then be sure to email me at media@themountaineer.com and we'll get something sorted for you. I will see you guys on Wednesday with what will likely be a retrospective episode of the Mountaineer Podcast. Have a great rest of your day.
Driving south on the Belt Road, I saw a car turned on its head. Firefighters with flashlights were scanning the road up ahead. The airbag spilled out of the passenger side window.
The song that you are currently listening to is called Bend the Truth, and it is one of the latest singles from Laura Ruggles as part of her upcoming album. You can stream many of her singles as well as a full album of hers wherever you get your music, and you can stream more of her music under the stage name Hardt. That's Shark with 2 K's at the end and Heart with 2 T's at the end. Also be sure to check out Hardt on Instagram, Laura Ruggles on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and Hardt's official website at sharkheart.com. And finally, be sure to check Laura Ruggles out live at the Jamestown Mercantile located at 108 Main Street in Jamestown on Sunday, October 6, 2024, starting at noon.
Cast a spell around me, the way gravity causes light to bend. I wanna bend the truth so I can hold on to you.
And that's it for our show. Subscribe online to get more access to more news, weekly updates to our community calendar, and a link to our YouTube channel by visiting themountaineer.com. Be sure to use the coupon code PODCAST when subscribing for a 10% discount, only available to our listeners. If you are in the local Peak to Peak area, be sure to pick up a print edition of The Mountaineer at a local business. I'm Dango Rose. Thank you for listening.